My son signed me into a nursing home on a Tuesday morning without asking my permission. By Saturday afternoon, I was standing in his living room with the sheriff's deputy and eviction papers, watching his $2.5 million lifestyle collapse in real time. The look on his face when he realized I still owned everything he thought was his. That was worth every sleepless night I'd spent planning this moment. Let me take you back to where this really started. Because betrayal this calculated doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, like rust eating through metal, until the structure collapses all at once. My name is Robert Carter. I'm 68 years old, United States Navy veteran, 22 years of service in naval intelligence before I retired and built a successful security consulting firm. My wife Margaret died 2 years ago this past April. Breast cancer, stage 4 by the time they found it. She fought for 14 months. And I was beside her every single day until the end. Margaret and I bought our first house together in 1979, a modest 3-bedroom in Pacific Heights, San Francisco. We paid $127,000 for it, which seemed like an impossible fortune at the time. I was working 2 jobs. Margaret was teaching elementary school. We scraped together the down payment by selling her mother's jewelry and taking a loan against my Navy pension. That house became our foundation. We raised our son Michael there, watched him grow from a colicky baby into a bright kid who loved books and building things with Legos. He was our only child. Margaret had complications during delivery that made future pregnancies impossible. So Michael got all our attention, all our resources, all our hopes. By 1998, that little house we'd bought for $127,000 was worth $890,000. The tech boom had transformed San Francisco real estate into a speculative casino. I sold it and bought a larger property in Presidio Heights. 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, stunning views of the Golden Gate Bridge. Purchase price, $1.8 million. I paid cash. My security consulting firm had been extraordinarily successful. Government contracts, corporate clients, international work. By the late 90s, I was clearing $400,000 annually. Margaret had advanced to school principal. Our combined income was substantial, but we lived modestly, saved aggressively, invested wisely. Michael was at Stanford Law School then, full scholarship plus a stipend we provided for living expenses. $3,000 monthly to cover his apartment, food, books, entertainment. He graduated top 15% of his class in 2001, passed the California bar on his first attempt, got hired immediately by Morrison, Caldwell and Associates, one of San Francisco's most prestigious corporate law firms. We were proud. God, we were so proud. Our son, the successful attorney, the immigrant grandfather who'd arrived from Ireland with nothing, would have been amazed to see his great-grandson in a corner office, overlooking the financial district. But here's where the story gets complicated. Here's where I made the decision that would eventually lead to that Tuesday morning when my own son betrayed me. In 2006, Michael came to us with a proposal. He was engaged to Amanda, a woman from old San Francisco money. Her family owned commercial real estate throughout the Bay Area. Michael wanted to buy a house, something impressive to start their married life. But property prices had exploded. The kind of house he wanted was running $2.2 to $2.8 million. I have good credit and a solid income, he told Margaret and me over dinner at our house. But the mortgage payments on a property that size would be $14,000 monthly, even with 20% down. Amanda's parents offered to help, but I don't want to start our marriage indebted to her family. Margaret looked at me. We'd had this conversation privately already, anticipating Michael's request. What if we bought the property? I suggested. Put it in your name as the primary resident, but keep my name on the deed as co-owner for estate planning purposes. The mortgage would be lower because of my credit history and assets. You'd pay what you can afford monthly, and we'd cover the difference as our gift to you and Amanda. Michael's face lit up. Dad, that would be incredible. Are you sure? You're our only child, Margaret said. This is your inheritance anyway. We're just giving it to you early when you actually need it. We found a stunning Victorian mansion in Pacific Heights. 7 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, 6,400 square feet, completely renovated with modern amenities while maintaining historical charm. Purchase price $2.8 million. I put down $1.2 million cash. The remaining $1.6 million mortgage was in my name primarily, with Michael as co-borrower. Monthly payment $9,800. Michael contributed $4,000 monthly. Margaret and I covered the remaining $5,800, plus the $2,100 monthly property taxes and $890 monthly insurance. We structured it carefully with our attorney. The deed listed me as primary owner, with Michael having residency rights and eventual inheritance upon my death. Standard estate planning. My lawyer, Patricia Monroe, was explicit. Robert, you retain full ownership. Michael lives there, but legally, you can revoke his residency at any time with 30 days' notice. That'll never happen, I told Patricia. He's my son, famous last words. Michael and Amanda married in 2007. Beautiful wedding at the Fairmont Hotel. 240 guests, cost me $87,000. They moved into the Victorian mansion and started their life together. Amanda quit her marketing job to focus on, as she put it, building our family's social position. That should have been my first warning sign. But I was still grieving Margaret's diagnosis. She'd been told that summer that the cancer was back, aggressive, metastatic. I had other priorities beyond analyzing my daughter-in-law's character. The next few years were a blur of medical appointments, experimental treatments, hope followed by crushing disappointment. Margaret died on April 18, 2022. I was holding her hand in our bedroom, the room where we'd spent 43 years together, where we'd made love and argued and reconciled and dreamed about growing old together. Michael and Amanda attended the funeral, of course. Stood beside me at the graveside. Michael gave a eulogy about his mother that was eloquent and seemingly heartfelt. Amanda held my arm during the reception afterward, telling everyone how devoted I'd been as a husband. 2 weeks later, Michael called me. Dad, Amanda and I have been talking. You shouldn't be alone in that big house in Presidio Heights. Why don't you move in with us? We have plenty of room. It seemed like genuine concern at the time. My son worried about his grieving father, rattling around in a 6-bedroom house filled with memories of his dead wife. I appreciate the offer, I told him, but I'm fine here. This is where Margaret and I built our life. I'm not ready to leave it. Just think about it, Michael said. The offer stands. I did think about it for about 3 days. Then I decided Michael was right. The house was too big, too quiet, too full of Margaret's absence. Maybe living with family would help with the grief. I called Michael on May 12, 2022. I've reconsidered your offer. If you and Amanda are still willing, I'd like to take you up on it. That's great, Dad. Michael sounded genuinely pleased. When do you want to move? Next month. I'll put the Presidio house on the market. There was a pause. You're selling it? Well, I won't need it if I'm living with you. And frankly, the maintenance on a property that size is becoming a burden. Another pause. Have you gotten it appraised recently? Not in a few years. Why? Pacific Heights real estate has gone insane, Dad. That house is probably worth $3.2 to $3.4 million now. He was right. I got it appraised at $335 million, listed it for $3.5 million, had 3 offers within a week, accepted $348 million cash from a tech executive. Closing was June 30th, 2022. After taxes and fees, I netted $3.1 million. Added to the $1.8 million Margaret and I had in investments and retirement accounts, I was sitting on $4.9 million in liquid assets. At 66 years old, with a military pension of $4,100 monthly and Social Security of $1,290 monthly, I was financially secure for life. I moved into Michael and Amanda's Victorian mansion on July 8, 2022. They gave me the entire 3rd floor, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, private and quiet. Perfect for a grieving widower who needed space to process his loss. For the first month, everything seemed fine. Amanda made dinner 3 nights a week. Michael and I watched baseball games together, drank beer, talked about his cases at the firm. I felt like maybe this arrangement would work, like maybe having family around would ease the loneliness. Then small things started to shift. Amanda would make comments about my belongings cluttering her house. The photo of Margaret I'd placed in the living room disappeared one day, relocated to my bedroom without discussion. When I asked about it, Amanda said, "We're trying to keep the common areas neutral for entertaining clients." Clients. That word would come up increasingly often. Michael had made partner at Morrison Caldwell and Associates in 2020, before the pandemic. His salary had jumped to $385,000 annually, plus bonuses and profit sharing that added another $120,000. Amanda had started a lifestyle blog that year called Pacific Heights Living, documenting their affluent life for Instagram followers. By August, I noticed Amanda photographing the house extensively for her blog. The Victorian architecture, the designer furniture, the gourmet kitchen with its $18,000 Le Cornu range. She'd write captions like, "Grateful for this beautiful home where we're building our legacy, and success is about creating spaces that reflect your values." Never once did she mention that I owned the house, that the mortgage was in my name, that the $9,800 monthly payment came from my accounts. Her blog and social media created an illusion that she and Michael had achieved all this through their own success. I didn't say anything. Didn't correct her. Margaret had always told me to pick my battles carefully, and this seemed like harmless vanity. September brought the first real warning sign. I overheard Michael and Amanda arguing in their bedroom. My room was directly above theirs, and the old Victorian's floor wasn't soundproofed. "We can't afford this lifestyle much longer," Michael said. "The mortgage is killing us." "Your father pays most of it," Amanda replied. "He pays $5,800. I pay $4,000, plus property taxes and insurance. That's $7,100 monthly out of my income. Then there's the car payments, your shopping, the club memberships, entertaining clients. We're spending $22,000 monthly, and I make $28,000 after taxes, so ask your father to contribute more to the household. He's already covering more than half the housing costs. Then maybe he should sign the house over completely," Amanda said. "It's going to be ours eventually anyway. This way we could refinance in our names, get better terms, and he'd still live here rent-free." My hands gripped the book I was reading. This was the first time I'd heard Amanda suggest I should simply give away my $2.8 million asset. "Dad would never go for that," Michael said. "The house is his security, his last major asset. He has millions from selling the Presidio place, which he's living on. He's not going to just hand us a multi-million-dollar property." They dropped the subject, but I didn't forget it. That conversation played in my mind for days. Amanda saw my ownership of the house as an inconvenient obstacle rather than the generous arrangement it was. October and November passed quietly. I kept to myself mostly, reading in my room, taking long walks, having dinner with them twice a week. I was grieving Margaret still, and the quiet routine helped me process the loss. Then December arrived, and everything changed. December 4th, 2022. Sunday evening. Michael asked if we could talk privately in his study. I followed him into the wood-paneled room that had been converted into his home office. Diplomas on the wall, legal books lining the shelves, a mahogany desk that had cost $8,000. "Dad, I need to discuss something sensitive," Michael began. He looked uncomfortable, wouldn't meet my eyes directly. "Go ahead. Amanda and I have been talking about our future. About expanding our family, about long-term financial planning, and we've realized that the current housing situation isn't sustainable." I waited, saying nothing. "The mortgage payment is too high for what I'm earning, and with you living here, we can't really use the space the way we need to. The third floor would be perfect for a nursery and children's rooms once we start having kids." "You're pregnant?" I asked Amanda, though she hadn't mentioned anything. "Not yet," Michael said quickly. "But we're planning to start trying soon, and we need to prepare the house for that." I understood where this was going, but I wanted to hear him say it explicitly. What exactly are you proposing? Michael pulled out a folder. Documents inside, professionally prepared. We'd like to refinance the house entirely in our names. You'd sign over your ownership stake, and in return, we'd guarantee you can live here rent-free for the rest of your life. It would still be your home, Dad, just legally cleaner. I took the folder, scanned the documents. Quitclaim deed transferring all ownership to Michael Carter and Amanda Chen Carter. New mortgage application in their names only. A separate document titled Lifetime Residency Agreement, guaranteeing me the right to live on the third floor indefinitely. This residency agreement, I said slowly. What happens if I need medical care? Or if I want to move? It's flexible, Michael assured me. If you decide to move to a care facility or want to live elsewhere, you'd have that option. This just ensures you always have a home with us if you want it. The words sounded reasonable. The documents looked professional, but something felt fundamentally wrong about signing away a $2.8 million asset in exchange for a flexible residency agreement that could be interpreted any way my son and daughter-in-law chose. I need time to think about this, I said, and I want my attorney to review these documents. Michael's expression tightened. Dad, we've already had our attorney prepare everything. It's completely above board. Then my attorney will confirm that quickly. I took the folder back to my room and called Patricia Monroe the next morning. She reviewed the documents and called me back within 2 hours. Robert, don't sign these, she said bluntly. The quitclaim deed is standard, but this residency agreement is worthless. It has no enforceability. They could evict you 30 days after you sign over ownership, and you'd have no legal recourse. Why would they do that? I don't know why people do what they do. But I know that giving away a multi-million-dollar asset in exchange for a piece of paper that offers no real protection is financial suicide. You're 66 years old with no other significant real estate. This house is your security. I thanked Patricia and sat in my room thinking. Michael was my son, Margaret's son, the boy we'd sacrificed for, invested in, loved unconditionally. He wouldn't actually evict me, would he? That evening, I told Michael I'd decided not to sign the documents. His reaction was immediate and cold. Dad, this is important to Amanda and me. We're trying to build our future, and you're blocking that. I'm not blocking anything. I'm just choosing not to give away my primary asset. You're being selfish, Amanda interjected. She'd been listening from the doorway. We've given you a home here, included you in our lives, and you won't even do this one thing to help us, given me a home. In the house I owned. I've already helped you more than most parents ever do, I said quietly. I gave you this house to live in. I pay more than half the expenses. I'm not obligated to sign away my ownership just because you find the arrangement inconvenient. The atmosphere in the house changed after that conversation. Amanda stopped making dinner for me. Michael became distant, perfunctory in our interactions. I was no longer invited to join them for anything. I was tolerated, not welcomed. Christmas 2022 was awkward. We exchanged gifts mechanically. Michael gave me a book I'd already read. Amanda gave me nothing, not even a card. I gave them a check for $10,000 toward their future family, thinking maybe generosity would ease the tension. It didn't. Amanda took the check without thanks. Michael muttered something about appreciation but wouldn't meet my eyes. January 2023 brought even more concerning developments. I started noticing Amanda and Michael having whispered conversations that stopped whenever I entered a room. Documents would be quickly hidden if I walked into the kitchen. They'd schedule private discussions in Michael's study with the door closed. February 14th, Valentine's Day. I was reading in my room when I heard voices from their bedroom below. The old house's acoustics carried sound better than they realized. "We can't wait any longer," Amanda said. "Your father is never going to voluntarily sign over the house. Then what do you suggest?" Michael asked. "We can't force him. Maybe we can." "Have you looked into conservatorship laws?" My blood went cold. Conservatorship, legal guardianship for people deemed incapable of managing their own affairs. "Dad's completely mentally competent," Michael said. "No judge would grant conservatorship. People decline at his age. Memory issues, confusion, inability to manage finances. If he started showing those signs and we documented them properly, we could petition the court. Amanda, that's insane. Dad's sharp as ever, is he? Or is that just what you want to believe? I've noticed him forgetting conversations, repeating himself, seeming confused about basic things. I hadn't forgotten anything, hadn't repeated myself, hadn't shown any confusion. Amanda was fabricating symptoms. I'm not going to pursue conservatorship against my own father based on lies, Michael said firmly. Then we're stuck, living in a house we don't own, paying a mortgage we can't afford, blocked from building our real future because you're too sentimental about family loyalty. The conversation ended, but I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd heard. Amanda had suggested declaring me mentally incompetent to seize control of my assets. And while Michael had refused, the fact that it had even been discussed meant the trust between us was irrevocably broken. I called Patricia Monroe the next morning. I need to understand my legal position completely. If Michael and Amanda tried to pursue conservatorship, what would happen? Patricia asked detailed questions about my health, mental state, and financial management. Then she said, "Based on what you're telling me, no court would grant conservatorship. You're mentally sharp, physically healthy, managing your own finances competently. They'd need substantial medical evidence of incompetence, which doesn't exist. What if they fabricate that evidence? Then we'd fight it aggressively. But Robert, the fact that you're even asking this question tells me something has fundamentally broken in your relationship with your son. Maybe it's time to consider alternative living arrangements." I thought about that suggestion for weeks. Move out of the house I owned? Find an apartment somewhere? It felt like surrendering, like letting Amanda win. Instead, I did what my naval intelligence training had taught me. I started gathering information. March 15th, 2023. I installed a small recording device in the common areas of the house. Nothing in bedrooms or bathrooms, just the kitchen, living room, and dining room. I wanted to know what Michael and Amanda said when they thought I couldn't hear them. The recordings were devastating. March 22nd, Amanda to a friend on the phone. Living with Robert is exhausting. He's like this weight around our necks, guilting us about the house, acting like we owe him everything. I can't wait until we figure out how to get him out. April 3rd, Michael to Amanda. Maybe we should just ask Dad to move out. Offer to help him find a nice senior living community. Amanda's response, he'll never agree. And we can't force him because he technically owns the house. That's the whole problem. April 18th, the first anniversary of Margaret's death. I spent the day at her grave, talking to her headstone, crying for the first time in months. When I returned home that evening, Michael and Amanda were having another argument. Your father is never going to voluntarily give up control, Amanda said. We need to be more strategic. Meaning what? Meaning we document everything. Every time he forgets something, gets confused, seems disoriented, we build a case that he's declining mentally. Then we pursue conservatorship whether he agrees or not. I told you I'm not doing that. Then we're going to be stuck in this situation forever, Michael. Is that what you want? Living in someone else's house until you're 50, 60? Your father could live another 20 years. The contempt in her voice when she said your father was unmistakable. I wasn't a person to Amanda. I was an obstacle, an inconvenience, preventing her from accessing what she felt entitled to. May brought a new development that would ultimately seal their fate. Michael came to me on May 8th with a different proposal. Dad, Amanda, and I have been thinking. Instead of trying to refinance the house, what if we bought you out? We'd pay you fair market value for your ownership stake, and you could use that money to buy yourself a nice condo or apartment nearby. You'd still be close to family, but you'd have your own space. It was a more honest proposition than the previous one. At least he was offering actual money instead of a worthless residency agreement. How much are you offering? I asked. The house appraised at $2.8 million when we bought it. It's probably worth 3.1 or 3.2 million now. We'd offer you 1.6 million for your stake. I did the math in my head. That's exactly half the original purchase price, not half the current value. If the house is worth $3.2 million now, my 50% stake would be $1.6 million only if the property hadn't appreciated at all. Michael looked uncomfortable. We'd be taking on the entire mortgage, Dad. That has to be factored into the value. The mortgage I've been paying more than half of for 17 years? Michael, I've paid roughly $1.2 million in down payment plus another $1.1 million in mortgage payments, taxes, and insurance since 2006. My investment in this property is approximately $2.3 million. You're offering me $1.6 million. That's still a substantial amount of money. It's substantially less than what I'm owed. Michael's jaw tightened. What are you owed, Dad? You want me to pay you back every penny you've ever spent on me? College tuition? Law school expenses? The wedding? Should I calculate interest on all of that? This isn't about those things. Those were gifts from your mother and me. This house is different. It's an asset I purchased, with the understanding that it would eventually be yours through inheritance, not through forcing me to sell at a loss while I'm still alive, so you'll just keep holding it over our heads forever. I'm not holding anything over anyone's head. I'm simply declining to give away or sell below value the single largest asset I own. That conversation ended badly, with Michael walking out and Amanda glaring at me with pure hatred. For the next 3 weeks, the atmosphere in the house became unbearable. Amanda would deliberately make noise late at night, vacuuming outside my door at 11 p.m., playing music loudly in the early morning. Michael stopped speaking to me entirely, except when absolutely necessary. I knew I needed to make a decision, stay and endure escalating hostility, or leave the house I owned and find peace elsewhere. But leaving felt like admitting defeat, like letting them win. Then May 30th happened, the day that changed everything. I was reading in the living room when a man I didn't recognize rang the doorbell. Amanda answered it. Mrs. Carter, I'm James Wilson from Pacific Senior Living. We spoke on the phone about touring our facilities. My stomach dropped. Amanda had been researching senior living facilities. For me? Oh yes, Amanda said pleasantly. Come in. Let me get some information for you. I stood up from my chair. Amanda, what's this about? She barely glanced at me. Robert, Mr. Wilson runs an excellent continuing care retirement community. I thought you might be interested in learning about their programs. I'm not interested in moving to a retirement home. It's not a retirement home, sir, James Wilson said with a practiced smile. It's an active adult community offering independent living, assisted living, and memory care options, depending on your needs. Memory care. The implication was clear. I don't need any of those options, I said firmly. I'm perfectly capable of living independently. Of course you are, Amanda said in a patronizing tone. But it's good to be prepared. These communities have waiting lists sometimes. Better to get on a list now while you're still healthy. James Wilson launched into his sales pitch. Beautiful apartments, restaurant-style dining, social activities, medical care on site. Everything designed to sound appealing, while essentially describing a place where old people went to be managed out of the way of their families' real lives. I'm not interested, I repeated. Thank you for your time, Mr. Wilson, but I won't be touring your facility. After he left, Amanda confronted me. That was incredibly rude, Robert. I arranged that meeting for your benefit. My benefit or yours. You want me out of this house? Maybe I do, she snapped. Maybe I'm tired of living with someone who treats us like we're trying to steal from him, when we're just trying to build our lives. You are trying to steal from me. You've been plotting for months to either force me to sign away the house or find a reason to declare me incompetent. Amanda's face went white. You've been spying on us. I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. She turned and walked away, but I knew the confrontation had escalated the situation to a breaking point. They now knew that I knew about their plans. That evening, Michael came to my room. Dad, we need to talk seriously. This living arrangement isn't working for anyone. Amanda and I think it would be better for everyone if you found your own place. You're asking me to move out of the house I own. We're suggesting that continuing to live together is damaging our relationship. If you moved nearby, we could see each other on better terms without the daily tension. And if I refuse? Michael looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not frustration, but cold calculation. Then we'll have to explore other options, such as, Dad, I'm an attorney. I understand how these things work. If there are legitimate concerns about your ability to live independently, we have a responsibility to address them. For your own safety, there it was. The threat Amanda had made in February was now coming from my own son's mouth. Declare me incompetent, pursue conservatorship, take control of my assets for my own good. Michael, I'm 67 years old. I have no health problems, no cognitive issues, and I manage a $4.9 million investment portfolio successfully. No court is going to grant you conservatorship. Courts grant conservatorship when family members present credible evidence of decline. Memory issues, confusion, poor judgment, financial mismanagement, none of which I exhibit yet. He let the word hang in the air. People decline quickly at your age, Dad. It can happen gradually or suddenly. And when it does, someone needs to be prepared to step in. I understood perfectly. They were going to manufacture evidence of my decline. Document incidents that never happened. Exaggerate normal forgetfulness into concerning patterns. Paint a picture of deterioration that justified legal intervention. That night, I made my decision. I wasn't going to wait for them to build a fraudulent case against me. I was going to act first, and I was going to hit them where they'd never expect. The next morning, June 1st, 2023, I called Patricia Monroe. I need you to do something that's going to seem extreme, but I promise you it's necessary. What do you need, Robert? I need you to prepare eviction papers for Michael and Amanda. 30 days' notice to vacate the property I own. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Robert, are you absolutely certain? This is your son. I know exactly who he is. That's why I'm doing this. The eviction notice was delivered by Sheriff's Deputy on June 5th, 2023, while I was deliberately away from the house visiting Margaret's grave. I wanted Michael and Amanda to receive it without me present, to give them time to process what was happening. When I returned home that evening, Michael was waiting for me in the living room. His face was red, jaw clenched, hands shaking as he held the eviction notice. What the hell is this? He shoved the paper toward me. It's exactly what it says. 30 days notice to vacate. You and Amanda need to find a new place to live. You can't evict us. This is our home. It's my home. It's always been my home. You've been living here under my generosity, which you've both made clear you don't appreciate. Amanda appeared from the kitchen. You miserable old man. After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me. Let me see. You've plotted to declare me mentally incompetent, researched nursing homes to dump me in, tried to force me to sign away my property, and made the last year of my life miserable. Yes, thank you so much for your generous care. We gave you a place to live after your wife died. Amanda screamed. You gave me a place to live in the house I owe in. The house I've been paying for since 2006. The house where I've contributed over $2.3 million while you've contributed grudging resentment and constant scheming. Michael stepped forward. Dad, if you go through with this, we're done. I'll never speak to you again. Then we're done. Because I'm not backing down. The legal fees alone will bankrupt you. I'm an attorney, remember? I know every trick in the book to drag this out. Drag it out then. But you'll be doing it from somewhere else in 30 days. The next 4 weeks were warfare. Michael filed an emergency motion to block the eviction, claiming he had an ownership stake in the property. Patricia demolished that argument with the deed showing my sole ownership. Michael then claimed he'd made substantial improvements to the property that gave him rights. Patricia produced receipts showing I'd paid for every renovation, every repair, every improvement. Amanda filed a separate lawsuit claiming I'd promised them the house as a gift and was now reneging. That claim went nowhere because there was no written agreement, no documentation, nothing but her word against mine. They contacted Adult Protective Services, filing a complaint that I was showing signs of dementia and making erratic financial decisions. An investigator came to interview me. I showed her my portfolio management records, my bank statements, my correspondence with financial advisors. She concluded within 20 minutes that the complaint was unfounded and likely malicious. Through all of this, I documented everything. Every threat Michael made, every nasty comment Amanda hurled, every legal maneuver they attempted. I was building my own case, though for what purpose they didn't yet understand. June 30th, 2023, the final day of their eviction notice. Michael and Amanda had packed their belongings into a moving truck. Their faces were masks of fury and humiliation. "I hope you're proud of yourself," Michael said as he loaded the last box. "Destroying your own family over money and property." "I didn't destroy anything, Michael. You did that when you decided greed was more important than integrity. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not seeing who you really were much sooner." The moving truck pulled away. I stood in the doorway of my Victorian mansion, the house I'd bought 23 years ago as a gift to my son, and felt a strange mixture of relief and grief. But the story doesn't end there, because 2 weeks later, Michael and Amanda made one final, desperate move that would backfire spectacularly and teach them exactly what kind of man they'd been underestimating. July 14th, 2023. I received a certified letter at my house. Legal notice that Michael Carter and Amanda Chen Carter were petitioning the Superior Court of San Francisco for emergency conservatorship over Robert James Carter, citing documented evidence of severe cognitive decline and inability to manage his financial affairs. I sat in my kitchen reading the petition. It was 34 pages of detailed allegations, subject exhibits marked memory impairment, frequently forgetting recent conversations and repeating questions multiple times. False. Subject has made irrational financial decisions, including evicting family members from his primary residence without cause. The eviction had substantial cause. All documented. Subject demonstrates paranoid behavior, making unfounded accusations against family members of theft and conspiracy. My accusations were neither unfounded nor paranoid. I had recordings proving everything. Subject has isolated himself from family and social connections, indicating depression and deteriorating mental health. I'd been isolated by their hostility, not by choice. The petition included 3 affidavits, one from Michael, one from Amanda, and one from Dr. Richard Chen, a psychiatrist I'd never met, claiming to have evaluated me and found evidence of moderate to severe cognitive impairment, consistent with early-stage dementia. I'd never met Dr. Richard Chen, never been evaluated by him. This was complete fabrication. The hearing was scheduled for August 2nd, 2023, less than 3 weeks away. If the judge granted the petition, Michael would be appointed my conservator with control over my finances, my property, and my person. He could commit me to a care facility against my will. He could sell my house. He could drain my accounts. This was the nuclear option Amanda had suggested back in February, and Michael had finally agreed to deploy it. I called Patricia Monroe immediately. "They're trying to have me declared incompetent. I saw. They sent me a copy of the petition as your attorney of record." "Robert, this is serious. They fabricated a psychiatric evaluation." "I know. What do we do?" "We fight. First, I'm filing a motion to compel Dr. Chen to testify. If he's never actually examined you, that comes out under oath. Second, we're getting you properly evaluated by a legitimate psychiatrist who will testify to your complete mental competency. Third, we're going to expose every lie in this petition with documentation. How long do we have?" 17 days until the hearing. "But Robert, there's something else we need to discuss. These conservatorship petitions sometimes succeed not because the evidence is strong, but because the respondent appears defensive or angry in court. We need you calm, composed, and utterly unshakable. I spent 22 years in naval intelligence, Patricia. I know how to stay calm under pressure." The next morning, I drove to Dr. Sarah Kim's office. She was a neuropsychologist Patricia recommended, someone with impeccable credentials and extensive experience testifying in conservatorship cases. Dr. Kim spent 4 hours evaluating me. Memory tests, cognitive assessments, problem-solving exercises, psychological screening. At the end, she sat back and looked at me with a slight smile. "Mr. Carter, you score in the 94th percentile for your age group on every metric I tested. Your memory is excellent, your reasoning is sharp, and you show no signs whatsoever of cognitive impairment. Whatever your son is claiming, it's not supported by objective evidence. Will you testify to that?" "Absolutely. And I'll bring the full test results to demonstrate exactly how competent you are." Over the next 2 weeks, Patricia and I built our counter case. We subpoenaed Dr. Richard Chen's records and discovered he'd never actually examined me. His evaluation was based entirely on information Michael and Amanda provided, which he accepted without verification. Dr. Chen had violated basic medical ethics by diagnosing someone he'd never met. We gathered character witnesses. My financial advisor, Thomas Wu, who'd worked with me for 15 years and could testify to my sophisticated understanding of investments. My physician, Dr. Robert Martinez, who'd given me a complete physical 2 months earlier and found me in excellent health. Margaret's sister, Helen, who'd spent time with me recently and could refute claims of isolation or confusion. Most importantly, I had my recordings. Hours of Michael and Amanda discussing their plans to fabricate evidence against me, to pursue conservatorship as a strategy rather than a legitimate concern, to gain control of my assets through legal manipulation. July the 28th, 4 days before the hearing, Patricia filed our response to the conservatorship petition. It included Dr. Kim's complete neuropsychological evaluation showing my perfect competency, affidavits from multiple witnesses attesting to my mental clarity, documentation that Dr. Chen had never actually examined me, a motion to sanction Michael and Amanda for filing a fraudulent petition, and attached as exhibits, transcripts of selected recordings proving they'd conspired to manufacture evidence of my incompetence. Michael's attorney, David Brennan, called Patricia within hours of receiving our filing. "Your client has been secretly recording private conversations in his home. That's potentially illegal wiretapping under California law. California is a 2-party consent state for telephone conversations," Patricia replied. "For in-person conversations in your own home, 1-party consent is sufficient. My client consented to recording conversations in his house. Your client's expectation of privacy while living in someone else's property is questionable at best. Those recordings will never be admitted as evidence. Then we'll see what the judge says. But even without the recordings, we have Dr. Kim's evaluation, Dr. Chen's ethical violations, and the complete lack of legitimate evidence supporting your petition. You're about to waste the court's time with a frivolous filing that was clearly made in bad faith." August 2nd, 2023, the Superior Court of San Francisco, Department 14, Judge Marianne Foster presiding. I arrived at the courthouse at 8:30 a.m., an hour before the hearing. Patricia had coached me extensively on courtroom demeanor. Dress conservatively, speak clearly and concisely, address the judge respectfully, show no anger or defensiveness regardless of what Michael or Amanda said. Michael and Amanda arrived at 8:45 with their attorney, David Brennan. Amanda wore an expensive navy suit and pearls, playing the role of concerned daughter-in-law. Michael wore his courtroom armor, a charcoal 3-piece suit that probably cost $3,000. They looked like responsible adults worried about an elderly relative's declining capacity. I wore a simple grey suit Margaret had bought me for our 40th anniversary. In my briefcase, I carried my naval service records, my financial statements, Dr. Kim's evaluation, and a letter Margaret had written me 2 weeks before she died, telling me how proud she was of my strength and intelligence. At 9:30 a.m., we were called into Judge Foster's courtroom. She was in her late 50s, with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she'd seen every variation of family dysfunction and wasn't easily fooled. "Good morning," Judge Foster said. This is a hearing on the petition for conservatorship filed by Michael Carter and Amanda Carter concerning Robert Carter. Mr. Brennan, you may proceed with your opening statement. David Brennan stood. Your Honor, this is a straightforward case involving an elderly man whose cognitive decline has reached a point where he can no longer safely manage his affairs. The petitioners, his son and daughter-in-law, have observed marked deterioration over the past year, including memory loss, poor judgment, paranoid accusations, and irrational financial decisions. Judge Foster looked at me. Mr. Carter, how old are you? 67, Your Honor. And what is your professional background? United States Navy, 22 years of service in naval intelligence, retiring at the rank of lieutenant commander. After military service, I founded a security consulting firm, which I operated successfully for 19 years before selling it in 2018. You sound quite articulate to me. Mr. Brennan, what specific evidence do you have of cognitive decline? Brennan presented Dr. Chen's evaluation. Judge Foster read it carefully, then looked up. This evaluation is dated June 20th, 2023. Dr. Chen, are you present? Dr. Chen stood nervously from the back of the courtroom. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with the uncomfortable demeanor of someone who knew he'd made a serious mistake. Dr. Chen, did you personally examine Mr. Robert Carter on June 20th or any other date? Long pause. No, Your Honor. My evaluation was based on information provided by the family members. So you diagnosed dementia in someone you never actually met or examined? I provided a clinical opinion based on the behavioral descriptions I received, which were consistent with, Doctor, that's not how medical diagnoses work. You can't ethically diagnose a patient without examining them. Are you aware that's a violation of medical practice standards? Dr. Chen's face went red. Your Honor, I was trying to assist the family in you were trying to rubber stamp a conservatorship petition. I'm very familiar with these cases, Dr. Chen, and this is exactly the kind of junk science that wastes court resources. Your evaluation is given 0 weight. Sit down. Michael and Amanda exchanged panicked glances. Their primary piece of evidence had just been destroyed. Your Honor, Brennan said quickly, we have detailed testimony from the petitioners about specific incidents demonstrating Mr. Carter's decline. Let's hear it then. Michael took the stand and was sworn in. Brennan led him through his prepared testimony. Mr. Carter, please describe your father's mental state over the past year. He's become increasingly confused and forgetful. He repeats the same questions multiple times, forgets conversations we had days earlier, and makes irrational decisions. Can you give specific examples? In early June, he suddenly decided to evict my wife and me from the family home where we'd lived for 17 years, with no real justification. That kind of impulsive, destructive decision-making is completely out of character for him. Anything else? He's become paranoid, accusing us of trying to steal from him or manipulate him. He installed recording devices in the house to spy on us. That level of paranoia suggests significant mental deterioration. Judge Foster looked at Patricia. Cross-examination. Patricia stood. Mr. Carter, the house you were evicted from, who owns that property? Michael hesitated. My father's name is on the deed, but yes or no? Who legally owns the house? My father. And how much has your father invested in that property over the years? I don't have exact figures. Patricia pulled out documents. Your Honor, may I approach? She handed copies to the judge and to Brennan. These are financial records showing Mr. Robert Carter paid $1.2 million as down payment in 2006 and has paid approximately $1.1 million in mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, and maintenance over 17 years. Total investment, $2.3 million. Mr. Michael Carter, how much have you contributed? I paid $4,000 monthly toward the mortgage. For how long? Since 2006. So approximately $816,000 over 17 years. Roughly 1/3 of what your father paid. And yet you claim he had no justification for evicting you from his property. It was supposed to be our family home. Was there any written agreement giving you ownership or permanent residency rights? No, but there was an understanding. An understanding. not a legal agreement. Mr. Carter, did you and your wife discuss trying to get your father to sign over the property to you? We discussed various options for yes or no. Did you discuss getting him to transfer ownership? Yes. And when he refused, did you and your wife discuss pursuing conservatorship as a way to gain control of his assets? Michael's face went pale. That's not... We were genuinely concerned about his mental health. Patricia pulled out transcripts. Your Honor, these are transcripts of recordings made by Mr. Robert Carter in his own home. I'd like to read a relevant passage. Objection. Brennan stood. Those recordings were made without my client's knowledge or consent, Your Honor, Patricia said calmly. California law permits one-party consent for recordings made in one's own residence. Mr. Robert Carter, the homeowner, recorded conversations that took place in his property. The recordings are admissible, Judge Foster considered. I'll allow it. But, Ms. Monroe, these recordings better be relevant and not just general family arguments. They're directly relevant to the question of whether this conservatorship petition is legitimate or a strategic manipulation. May I proceed? Go ahead, Patricia read from the transcript. This is Amanda Carter speaking to Michael Carter on February 14th, 2023. Quote, maybe we can force him. Have you looked into conservatorship laws? People decline at his age. Memory issues, confusion, inability to manage finances. If he started showing those signs, and we documented them properly, we could petition the court. End quote. The courtroom was silent. Judge Foster looked at Michael with an expression of cold fury. Mr. Carter, this transcript suggests your wife was discussing conservatorship not as a response to genuine decline, but as a strategy to gain control of your father's property. What's your response? Michael stammered. That was just, we were frustrated, and it's a yes or no question. Did your wife suggest pursuing conservatorship as a strategy rather than a legitimate medical concern? Your Honor, we were under a lot of stress. That's not an answer. Ms. Monroe, do you have additional transcripts? Several, Your Honor. May 30th, Amanda Carter contacted Pacific Senior Living to arrange a tour for Mr. Robert Carter without his knowledge or consent. June 7th, Michael Carter explicitly threatened his father, saying they would explore other options if he didn't voluntarily leave the house, with those options including conservatorship. All documented in recordings and supported by external evidence. Judge Foster turned to David Brennan. Counselor, your clients appear to have filed a conservatorship petition in bad faith as part of a scheme to gain control of valuable property. Do you have anything to say before I make my ruling? Brennan looked defeated. Your Honor, if I'd known the full circumstances, you should have done your due diligence before filing. Here's my ruling. The conservatorship petition is denied with prejudice. Mr. Robert Carter has demonstrated complete mental competency through professional evaluation. The evidence presented by petitioners is contradicted by objective medical assessment and appears to be fabricated. She turned her sharp gaze on Michael and Amanda. Furthermore, I'm sanctioning the petitioners $25,000 for filing a frivolous and bad faith petition. That amount will be paid to Mr. Robert Carter to partially compensate him for the legal fees incurred defending against this malicious action. Amanda gasped. Michael stared at the floor. Finally, Judge Foster continued, I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation of potential elder abuse and fraud. Filing false conservatorship petitions to gain control of an elderly person's assets is a crime under California Penal Code Section 368. Whether criminal charges are filed will be up to the DA. But this court has seen enough to warrant investigation. She banged her gavel. We're adjourned. Michael and Amanda left the courtroom without looking at me. David Brennan apologized quietly to Patricia for not vetting his client's claims more thoroughly. Outside the courthouse, Patricia turned to me. Well, Robert, I'd say that went as well as we could have hoped. What happens now with the DA investigation? They'll review the case. Given the recordings and the clear evidence of premeditation, there's a strong chance of criminal charges. Elder abuse, fraud, possibly conspiracy. We're talking potential felony charges. I felt no satisfaction, only exhaustion. This is my son, Patricia. He'd never wanted it to come to this, I know, but he made his choices. Now he lives with the consequences. 3 weeks later, August 23, 2023, I received a call from Deputy District Attorney Linda Martinez. The DA's office had reviewed the case and decided to file criminal charges against Michael and Amanda Carter. 2 counts of attempted elder abuse, 1 count of filing false legal documents, 1 count of conspiracy to commit fraud. Mr. Carter, DA Martinez said, I want you to understand what this means. If convicted, your son and daughter-in-law could face prison time. Up to 4 years for the elder abuse charges alone. I understand. Do you want to proceed with prosecution? Sometimes in family cases, victims choose not to pursue charges. I thought about Margaret, about the son we'd raised together, about all the sacrifices we'd made. Then I thought about the coldness in Michael's eyes when he threatened me, the calculation in Amanda's voice when she planned my destruction. Proceed with prosecution, I said. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. The trial was scheduled for January 2024. In the months between, I learned through mutual acquaintances that Michael and Amanda's lives had unraveled spectacularly. Morrison, Caldwell and Associates, the law firm where Michael had made partner, quietly asked him to resign after the conservatorship petition became public. Law firms couldn't afford partners facing felony elder abuse charges. His legal career was essentially over. Amanda's lifestyle blog, Pacific Heights Living, was deleted after followers discovered she'd been documenting a life built on fraud and manipulation. Her Instagram following dropped from 87,000 to 3,000 as people recoiled. From the story of what she'd tried to do to an elderly widower, they'd been forced to rent a small 2-bedroom apartment in the outer Sunset District. Rent was $3,800 monthly, nearly what Michael had paid toward the mansion's mortgage. But now they were getting less than 100 square feet instead of 6,400. Michael found work at a small personal injury firm, making $95,000 annually, less than a quarter of his previous income. Amanda got a job as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup, pulling in $72,000. Together they were making $167,000, which sounds substantial until you factor in legal fees from their various lawsuits. The $25,000 sanction they owed me, and the crushing weight of defending against criminal charges. January 8, 2024, the criminal trial began. I sat in the gallery watching my only son face a jury of his peers, who would decide whether he'd attempted to abuse and defraud his own father. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They played the recordings of Michael and Amanda discussing conservatorship as a strategy. They called Dr. Kim to testify about my perfect mental competency. They presented financial documents showing the house had always been mine, that I'd invested millions while Michael contributed a fraction. Most damaging was when they called Patricia Monroe to testify about the various schemes Michael and Amanda had attempted. The quitclaim deed with worthless residency agreement, the below-market buyout offer, the eviction retaliation through conservatorship petition. In your professional opinion as an attorney, the prosecutor asked Patricia, were these good faith efforts to help an elderly man, or calculated attempts to seize his assets? Calculated attempts, Patricia said firmly. Every action was designed to separate Mr. Robert Carter from his property and wealth. Using either legal manipulation or false medical claims, the defense tried to paint me as a vindictive father, punishing his son for normal family disagreements. They emphasized my age, suggested maybe I was overly sensitive about discussions of my future care needs. They claimed the recordings were taken out of context, but the jury wasn't buying it. After 6 days of testimony and 4 hours of deliberation, they returned guilty verdicts on all charges. Judge William Thompson, who handled the criminal case, scheduled sentencing for February 15th, 2024. Before that date arrived, D.A. Martinez called me with an offer. "Mr. Carter, your son's attorney has approached us about a plea agreement. If you're willing to make a victim impact statement supporting leniency, they'd accept a sentence of 2 years probation, 500 hours community service, and full restitution of your legal fees, plus the $25,000 sanction. And if I don't support leniency, then we push for prison time. Likely 2 to 3 years for your son, 18 months to 2 years for your daughter-in-law." I thought about that for several days. Prison would destroy what remained of Michael's legal career permanently. It would separate him from any future he might build. It would be the ultimate punishment for his betrayal, but it would also mean I'd sent my only son to prison. Margaret's son, the boy we'd raised together. February 10th, 5 days before sentencing, I called Michael. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice wary. "Dad, Michael, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." Silence. "If you could go back to February 2023, when Amanda first suggested pursuing conservatorship, would you make different choices?" Long pause. "I don't know. That's honest, at least. Dad, I was desperate. The mortgage, the lifestyle Amanda wanted, the pressure at the firm to maintain appearances. I felt trapped, so you decided to trap me instead." "I never wanted to hurt you. I don't know what I wanted. To not feel like a failure, I guess. To feel like I'd achieved something on my own, instead of always being the son of Robert Carter, living in the house Robert Carter bought, using money Robert Carter provided. You could have talked to me about those feelings, instead of plotting to have me declared incompetent. I know that now. But in the moment, Amanda made it sound so reasonable. Like we were just taking what was rightfully ours a little early. Nothing was rightfully yours, Michael. That's the thing you never understood. Inheritance isn't a right. It's a gift given freely, not something you scheme and manipulate to take. I understand that now. After losing everything, after watching our lives fall apart, I understand exactly how wrong we were. February 15th, 2024. Sentencing hearing. Judge Thompson asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I stood and faced my son across the courtroom. "Your Honor, Michael Carter is my only child. His mother and I sacrificed everything to give him opportunities we never had. We were proud of the man he became, or thought he'd become. What Michael and Amanda did to me was cruel and calculated. They saw my grief over losing Margaret as weakness to exploit. They saw my generosity as stupidity to manipulate. They were willing to have me declared mentally incompetent and locked away in a facility just to access my property and money. That betrayal hurt more than any physical injury could. But Michael is still my son. He's already lost his career, his reputation, his home, and his dignity. I don't believe prison would teach him anything he hasn't already learned from those consequences. I ask the court to consider probation with strict conditions, community service, and full restitution. Not because Michael deserves leniency, but because his mother would have wanted me to leave the door open for redemption, even if it takes years for him to walk through it. Judge Thompson sentenced Michael to 3 years probation, 800 hours community service, working with elder advocacy organizations, and full restitution totaling $67,000 in legal fees and sanctions. Amanda received the same sentence. Additionally, Judge Thompson issued a 10-year restraining order prohibiting Michael and Amanda from contacting me except through attorneys, and permanently barring them from any inheritance or claim to my estate. "Mr. Michael Carter," the Judge Thompson said, "your father has shown you more mercy than you showed him. I suggest you spend the next few years earning a fraction of the grace he's demonstrated today. That was 7 months ago." I haven't spoken to Michael since the sentencing hearing. He sends occasional letters through his attorney, updates on his community service work, apologies that sound increasingly genuine as the reality of what he destroyed settles in. I live alone in my Victorian mansion now. The house feels different without the tension, quieter but also emptier. I've joined a grief support group for widowers. Made some friends my own age who understand loss without trying to exploit it. Last month, I updated my will. The Victorian mansion, currently worth $3.4 million, will be sold upon my death. Proceeds will go to organizations supporting elder abuse prevention, veterans' causes, and literacy programs Margaret cared about. Michael's name appears nowhere in the document. Neither does Amanda's. Some people think I'm being too harsh, that family should forgive family. But those people didn't experience 18 months of calculated manipulation, didn't hear their own child discuss having them declared insane as a financial strategy, didn't stand in a courtroom defending their basic competency against fraudulent medical claims. I gave Michael every advantage. I invested millions in his education, career, and lifestyle. I asked for nothing in return except basic respect and honesty. He couldn't provide even that. Maybe someday, years from now, Michael will have genuinely changed. Maybe he'll have learned that people aren't assets to be managed and parents aren't obstacles to be removed. Maybe he'll understand that true success isn't measured in square footage or social media followers, but in character and integrity. If that day comes, maybe we'll talk again. Maybe I'll even consider restoring some portion of his inheritance, but that day isn't today, and it might never come. I'm 68 years old now. I've buried my wife, fought off my son's betrayal, and defended my basic dignity in a courtroom. I've learned that sometimes the people who should love you most are capable of the deepest cruelty. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. That 22 years of naval intelligence training wasn't wasted. That documentation and preparation matter. That staying calm while the world burns around you is a skill that never stops being useful. My son thought I was a confused old man, easy to manipulate, too grief-stricken to fight back. He underestimated me completely, and that miscalculation cost him everything.